Hello, my good friends. How are you today? May God bless you all. Imagine this. A picture-perfect wedding. White roses, champagne, everything. Then one sister walks up, drops a bomb, and the whole damn thing falls apart. Secrets, lies, a family that's been hiding the truth for years. It's all exposed in one heartbreaking moment. Who's brave enough to blow it all up at the altar? Stay tuned, because Riley Harper's story starts with a bang, and it only gets crazier from there. Subscribe and leave where you left off. Here we go. The air in St. Mary's Church smelled like old wood and fresh roses, the kind of scent that clings to your clothes long after you've left. It was March 24th, 2025, in Savannah, Georgia, and the place was decked out like a southern fairy tale. White petals scattered down the aisle, gold drapes swaying in the breeze from cracked open stained glass windows, chandeliers throwing soft light across a sea of designer dresses and pressed suits. Mia Harper, my sister, glowed in her wedding gown like she'd stepped out of a bridal magazine. All curls and mascara and that effortless charm she'd been perfecting since we were kids. Her groom, Ben, stood beside her, grinning like he'd won the lottery. The room buzzed with laughter, clinking champagne flutes, and the hum of a string quartet. Picture perfect, right? Except for me, Riley Harper, sitting at table 19, a rickety two-top shoved by the exit door, no name card, no +1, just a chipped plate and a view of the chaos I was about to unleash. I'd been clutching a small silver USB in my hand for the last hour, its edges digging into my palm like it was daring me to move. My navy dress, simple, second-hand, nothing like the glitter across the room, felt like armor. But my heart was pounding loud enough to drown out the orchestra. I didn't plan to ruin Mia's big day. Not at first. But when you've spent 32 years being the shadow in your own family's spotlight, sometimes you stop waiting for them to see you. Sometimes you turn the damn lights on yourself. The MC tapped the mic, his voice syrupy with that Savannah drawl. "Folks, let's raise a glass to the happy couple." Hands went up, glasses sparkled, and I stood. Not to toast, to talk. I walked straight to the AV booth, my sneakers scuffing the polished floor, and handed the USB to the tech guy, a kid with a headset and a deer-in-headlights look. "Play it," I said, low but firm. He stammered, this ain't on the schedule." I cut him off. "It is now. Cue it up or I will." He swallowed hard, nodded, and turned to his laptop. The projector screen dropped with a soft whir. Heads turned, murmurs rippled. Mia tilted her head, still smiling, probably thinking it was some cheesy tribute video. Then the first frame hit, her phone screen, glowing through the dark, a text to Jake, her side piece. "Can't wait till tonight. You're mine, wedding or not." Time stamped yesterday. Gasps sliced through the room like shattered glass. Ben's face froze, his hand halfway to his champagne flute. Mia's mouth dropped, her perfect curls bouncing as she whipped around to find me. Next clip. Thanksgiving, 4 years back. Mom, Evelyn Harper, caught on my old phone's voice memo, tossing my homemade pecan pie into the trash. "Next time buy from Whole Foods, Riley. Their crust doesn't crumble like this mess." Her laugh, sharp and careless, echoed over the speakers. Then Dad, Tom Harper, his voice clipped and professional from a recorded call I'd dug up. "She's talented, sure, but volatile. Not someone you'd trust with a brand." That was him, tanking my Chicago exhibit 3 years ago, like my art was some hobby he could squash. I stepped to the mic, the weight of every eye in the room pinning me in place. "Y'all called me invisible," I said, voice steady despite the sweat beading down my neck. "Tonight, I'm the spotlight." The screen went black. Silence held for a beat, then chaos erupted. Ben stood slow, like he was moving through molasses. He turned to Mia, his hazel eyes searching hers. "Was any of it real?" he asked, barely above a whisper. She reached for him, mascara smudging as she blinked fast. "Ben, wait." But he didn't. He slid the silver band off his finger, let it clatter onto the table, and walked out through the side door, shoulders slumped, but steps sure. The ring rolled once, twice, then stopped, a quiet little funeral for their fairy tale. Evelyn was on me in seconds, her lipstick flawless, her grip on my arm like a vice masked by a smile. "You're done, Riley," she hissed, voice low so only I'd hear. "I'll make sure of it." She smelled like Chanel and control, same as always. Across the room, Jake, tall, smirky, all gelled hair and fake tan, slipped toward the back, phone in hand, like he was about to live stream the wreckage. Mia sank into a chair, her dress crumpling around her like wet paper, staring at the spot where Ben had been. Guests whispered, some grabbing coats, others craning necks for a better view. The quartet faltered, then stopped. I didn't flinch. I'd just burned every bridge I'd ever known, and damn if it didn't feel like freedom. But how'd I get here? Rewind 3 weeks. Charleston, South Carolina, my little studio tucked off King Street. The place smelled like paint and coffee, hardwood floors creaking under my boots. I was sorting prints, shots from a Tybee Island shoot, golden hour light kissing the dunes, when my phone pinged. Email from an old L.A. client, Tara. "Hey Riley, isn't this yours? Mia's claiming it in her new skincare campaign." Attached was a screenshot. My photo, my composition, my colors. Mia laughing into the wind like she'd invented the sunset. No credit, no mention, just her name in bold. Mia Harper, creative director. I called her. Couldn't help it. My hands shook as I punched her number, pacing past Sam's editing desk. He's my assistant, a wiry guy with a buzz cut and a mouth that doesn't quit. "Mia," I said when she picked up, "you stole my work. Again." Her laugh crackled through the line, light and dismissive. "It's just a picture, Riley. Chill. No one cares who clicked the shutter. They're looking at me." I gripped the phone tighter. "That's my art, not your prop." She sighed, like I was the one being unreasonable. "Look, I've got a wedding to plan. Don't make this a thing." Click. She hung up. Sam glanced over, pausing his edits. "She's a piece of work, huh?" I didn't answer. Just stared at the screenshot, heat crawling up my chest. It wasn't just the photo. It was the years of being erased. Thanksgiving pies dumped, gallery slots yanked, every milestone I clawed for brushed off like dust. Mia didn't just take my work, she took my voice. And Mom and Dad? They'd been cheering her on the whole damn time. I sat down that night, alone in the studio, the hum of the city filtering through the windows, car horns, laughter from some bar down the block. The USB sat on my desk, a tiny silver bullet I'd been loading for weeks. Clips I'd saved, emails I'd dug up, proof they couldn't dodge. My family thought I was nothing, an extra in their perfect little movie. They were about to find out how wrong they were. "Hey, y'all," I'd say if this were a video, and maybe it should be. "If Riley's fights got you hooked, hit that subscribe button. Drop a 1 in the comments if you've ever been done dirty like this, or tell me where you're watching from. Savannah's still buzzing, and we're just getting started. Let's keep this story rolling." 3 weeks before I turned saints, Mary's into a battlefield. I was back in Charleston, my boots thudding against the hardwood floors of my studio. The place was my sanctuary, walls lined with black and white prints, the faint smell of developer chemicals mixing with the coffee Sam had brewed that morning. Outside, King Street buzzed with tourists snapping pics of pastel row houses. But in here, it was just me, my work, an gnawing ache I couldn't shake. That email from Tara, the one with Mia's stolen Tybee Island shot, was still open on my laptop, mocking me every time I glanced at it. I'd called her out, sure, but her chill brushed me off like I was some kid whining about a lost toy. It wasn't just a photo. It was me, my eye, my hours, my soul, and she'd swiped it like it was nothing. I slumped into my chair, the leather creaking under me, and scrolled through my phone. Old pics popped up. Me and Mia at Tybee 6 years back, her posing like a wannabe model while I adjusted the lens. I'd caught her in that golden light, hair whipping in the wind, and she'd laughed. "Make me famous, Riley." I did, over and over. Every shoot she borrowed for her Instagram, every frame she passed off as hers. I let it slide, thinking that's what sisters do. Until it wasn't funny anymore. Flashback to 6 years ago. Savannah. Thanksgiving at the Harper house. I'd driven 8 hours from Charleston, traffic crawling through I-95, just to make it on time. In the passenger seat, a pecan pie I'd baked from scratch, crust flaky and golden, the kind Grandma used to brag about before she got too frail to cook. I walked in proud, apron still dusted with flour, and set it on the counter. Evelyn, Mom, barely looked up from her sweet tea. "Store-bought's fine next time, hun," she said, her voice all sugar and steel. Then she scooped it into the trash, right in front of me, while Mia posted a filtered pic of Mom stirring gravy. Caption: Thanksgiving Queen. Likes poured in. My pie sat there, untouched, until the garbage truck hauled it away. I smiled through it, told myself it didn't matter. But it did. That was the day I realized love in this family came with a catch. You only got it if you fit their script. Back in the studio, I tossed my phone onto the desk. Sam poked his head around the corner, his buzz cut catching the light from the window. He'd been editing shots from a low-country marsh shoot. Gators and Spanish moss, my kind of quiet beauty. "You okay, boss?" he asked, wiping his hands on his jeans. "You've been staring at that screen like it owes you money." "Nah," I muttered. "Just family crap." He raised an eyebrow. "Mia again?" "Always Mia." I leaned back, rubbing my temples. "And Mom? And Dad? The whole damn circus?" Sam snorted. "They're clowns, Riley. You're too good for that mess." He wasn't wrong. Sam's been with me 2 years, ex-street photographer, scrappy as hell, with a knack for saying what I need to hear. But good doesn't cut it when your own blood keeps shoving you off the stage. I opened my mouth to brush it off, but he beat me to it. "Check this out," he said, sliding his laptop over. An email glowed on the screen. "Riley Harper, your series Low Country Shadows has been shortlisted for the Atlanta Photo Expo. Final decision soon." I blinked. "You submitted my work without telling me?" He grinned, unapologetic. "Yep. You're too good to stay small, boss. Someone's got to push you." "Sam, don't thank me yet. Just don't let those Harpers drag you down before you get there." I should have been thrilled. Atlanta's a big deal. National eyes, real cred. But before I could process it, my phone rang. Dad's name, Tom Harper, flashed across the screen. I almost let it go to voicemail, but something twisted in my gut. I hit answer. "Hey, Dad." "Riley," he started, voice flat like he was reading a memo. "Heard you're stirring trouble with Mia over some picture. Drop it, kid." My jaw tightened. "It's not some picture. It's mine. She stole it. She's got a wedding coming up. Bigger fish, you know. You're not cut out for the big leagues anyway." The line crackled. I could picture him in his Savannah office, khakis pressed, tie loose, bourbon on the desk. "What's that supposed to mean?" I asked, though I already knew. A pause, then, "You're talented, sure, but volatile. Not someone we'd trust to carry a brand." Same damn words he'd used on that Chicago call 3 years back. I'd found the recording last month. buried in an old email from a gallery friend who'd overheard him tanking my solo show. "She's emotional, not marketable," he'd said. Contracts dissolved, flights canceled, all because Dad decided my art wasn't worth the risk. "You tanked my Chicago gig, didn't you?" I said, voice shaking. Another pause. "I was saving you from yourself. Art's a hobby, Riley, not a life." "It's my life, Dad, not yours to trash." He didn't argue, just a faint hitch in his breath, like maybe for once he heard me. Then click, line dead. I dropped the phone, hands trembling. Sam watched me, quiet now. "He's full of it," he said finally. "You know that, right?" "Yeah," I whispered. "Doesn't make it sting less." I pulled up an old family pic on my laptop. Thanksgiving, maybe 10 years ago. Mia front and center, all braces and ballet tights, grinning like the world was hers. Me in the back, half-cropped, smiling like I wasn't supposed to be there. Mom's arm around Mia, Dad's eyes on his BlackBerry. I'd framed that shot, literally and figuratively, and they'd cropped me out every time. That night I dug through my files, found the voicemail from Mom, post-Chicago. "We'll reschedule your show, hun. Grandma's in town. You know how fragile she is. Be flexible." She never rescheduled. Found Mia's launch party clip, too, her sipping rosé on some rooftop, laughing to her influencer pals. "Riley's so dramatic. Art's cute, but we've got real jobs, right?" More laughs. More cuts. I dumped it all onto that USB. Every scrap of proof they'd dismissed me, used me, buried me. Sam wandered over as I ejected it, the little silver stick glinting under the studio lights. "What's the plan, boss?" he asked. I closed my fingers around it, the edges cool against my skin. "They think I'm nothing," I said. "Game's over, y'all." He smirked. "That's my girl." The Charleston sky outside was bruising purple, streetlights flickering on. I stood by the window, USB in my pocket, feeling the weight of what was coming. Mia's wedding wasn't just a party. It was their stage, their script, and I was about to rewrite the ending. "Hey, y'all, if you're rooting for Riley to flip the script, smash that subscribe button. Tell me in the comments, ever had someone try to dim your shine? Where you at today? Savannah's calling and Riley's not backing down. Stick around for the next round." The morning of Mia's wedding hit Savannah like a postcard. Blue skies, a breeze rustling the live oaks, and St. Mary's Church standing tall with its chipped steeple and ivy-covered bricks. I pulled up early, gravel crunching under my beat-up Honda, the USB a heavy little secret in my purse. My navy dress hung loose, snagging on the seatbelt as I climbed out. No frills, no fuss, just me, bus. The lot was already filling up with Lexuses and Audis, folks in pastel suits and wide-brimmed hats milling around like it was Easter Sunday. I wasn't here to blend in, though. Not today. Inside, the church smelled like polish and privilege, old pews creaking, white roses spilling over every surface, the organ humming soft and low. Nora, my old high school buddy who'd done the flowers, waved from the altar, her apron dusted with pollen. "Riley, you made it," she called, voice bright, but eyes flicking to the Harper clan like she was half expecting trouble. I gave her a tight smile. Wouldn't miss it. She didn't know the half of it. The check-in lady, headset on, clipboard in hand, squinted at me like I was a stray cat. "Name?" "Riley Harper," I said, adjusting my purse strap. She flipped through her list, lips pursing. Table 19, back corner." She pointed to a lopsided two-top near the exit, one chair, no name card. I nodded, thanked her, and walked over. Could have kicked up a fuss, but that's not how I roll with them. Not yet. I sat, crossing my legs under the wobbly table, the hum of the crowd washing over me. Laughter, clinking glasses, the clatter of heels on hardwood. Across the room, Mia floated in her robe, hair pinned, makeup glowing like she'd invented the word bride. She saw me, had to. I was right in her line of sight. But her eyes slid past like I was a smudge on the wall. Jake lingered nearby, all gelled hair and cocky grin, snapping pics with his phone. Ben, the groom, adjusted his tie, chatting with some groomsmen, oblivious to the storm brewing. Mom, Evelyn, worked the room in a peach dress, her smile sharp enough to cut glass. Dad, Tom, leaned against a pillar, bourbon in hand, nodding at distant cousins like he owned the place. A waiter swung by, tray loaded with champagne flutes. He skipped me, didn't even glance down. Then another came, this one with appetizers, shrimp skewers, tiny cornbread bites, the good stuff. He stopped, avoiding my eyes, and plopped a plate in front of me. Half a stale roll, some wilted kale, no fork. I stared at it, the clink of my own breath louder than the chatter around me. Table 18's couple, some preppy types in seersucker, glanced over, whispered, then laughed louder, like I was the punchline. It wasn't an accident. They'd fed me scraps on purpose, same way they'd been starving me out for years. Mia breezed past, her robe brushing the floor. She paused, leaned down just enough to murmur, "We kept it simple for you, sis. Don't want to overwhelm you." Her smile was sugar-coated venom, her perfume stinging my nose. My hand tightened around my purse, the USB digging into my thigh through the fabric. "Thanks," I said, voice flat. She smirked and moved on, heels clicking like she'd won something. That was it. The match on the fuse. I was done playing small. I stood, needing air, and slipped into the side hallway near the restrooms. The walls were cool against my back, the organ's hum muffled through the oak doors. Footsteps followed. Ben, his tie crooked now, holding a crumpled note he'd fished from Mia's bouquet. "Riley," he said, voice low. "She's hiding something, isn't she?" His hazel eyes searched mine, steady but cracked. I hesitated. He held up the paper. "Tonight, Jake." No context, but we both knew. "She's been lying to you," I said finally. "To all of us." He ran a hand through his hair, jaw tight. "Show me." I pulled the USB from my purse, handed it to him. "Plug it into my laptop, back table. See for yourself." He didn't flinch. "Do it," he said, handing it back. "Out there. Let 'em all see." My pulse spiked. "You sure? Mia's not the only one who gets a say today." He turned, disappearing into the crowd, leaving me with the weight of his words. Ben wasn't just the groom. He was my unexpected ally, the crack in their perfect frame I hadn't seen coming. Back in the hall, the quartet struck up something light, guests settling into their seats. I crossed the room, the USB burning a hole in my hand. Mia was at the head table now, laughing with Jake while Evelyn adjusted her veil. Tom sipped his drink, eyes on his phone. They didn't see me coming, not yet. I reached table 19, grabbed my laptop, left there for candid shots they'd never use, and marched to the AV booth. The tech kid was still there, chewing his lip. "Changed my mind," I said, plugging in the USB myself. "Roll it." The screen flickered. Mia's text to Jake glowed first. "Can't wait till tonight. You're mine, wedding or not." A collective gasp ripped through the room. Evelyn's pie-tossing clip followed, her laugh slicing the air. Then Tom's voice, cold and clipped. "Volatile. Not marketable." Every word landed like a brick. Mia's face drained of color, her veil slipping as she stood. Ben watched from the side, arms crossed, his nod to me barely perceptible but solid as steel. Evelyn lunged toward the booth, hissing, "Turn it off!" Too late. The truth was out, and the room was unraveling. Guests whispering, Jake bolting for the back, phone still in hand like he'd live-stream the fallout. Mia reached for Ben, but he stepped away, slow and final, the ring already loose in his pocket. I didn't move. Didn't need to. The fuse had lit, and the fire was theirs to choke on. I slipped outside after, the Georgia night cool against my skin, stars punching through the dark. The church doors swung shut behind me, muffling the chaos. Evelyn's threats, Mia's sobs, the clatter of chairs as folks bailed. My hands were steady now, the USB back in my purse, empty of its secrets. I'd done it, not for revenge, but for me. Phew, y'all, that was a twist. Subscribe if you're all in for Riley's comeback. Drop a 2 in the comments if you saw the Ben move coming, or let me know where you're tuned in from. Savannah's on fire tonight and Riley's just getting warmed up. Don't miss what's next. The fallout from St. Mary's hit Savannah like a hurricane nobody saw coming. By the next morning, my phone was buzzing off the hook. Texts from cousins I hadn't seen since Grandma's funeral. A voicemail from Evelyn that I didn't play. Even a pushy reporter from the Savannah Morning News sniffing for dirt. I let it all pile up, unanswered, and drove back to Charleston. The studio welcomed me like an old friend. Creaky floors, the hum of Sam's printer, the faint tang of varnish in the air. I dropped my purse on the desk, the empty USB rolling out like a spent shell. I'd fired my shot. Now it was time to see where the dust settled. 2 weeks later, I was elbow-deep in proofs for a new series when the bell above the studio door jingled. I looked up, and there she was, Mia, standing in the threshold like a ghost of her old self. No makeup, hair yanked back in a messy bun, a soaked denim jacket clinging to her shoulders from the March rain. She didn't strut in like she owned the place. She just stood there, smaller than I'd ever seen her, heels swapped for scuffed sneakers. "Riley," she said, voice scratchy, barely above the patter of rain outside. "I'm not here to explain." "Good," I shot back, setting my pen down. "I'm not in the mood for excuses." She shifted, hands stuffed in her pockets. "I'm broke. Sponsors bailed, campaigns tanked. Everything's gone. I need work." I leaned back in my chair, studying her. No mascara to smear, no smirk to hide behind. Just Mia, stripped down, asking for something she'd never given me. "You could have called first," I said. "Didn't think you'd pick up." She wasn't wrong. I stood, crossing the room to the front gallery where my prints hung, portraits of strangers who'd trusted me more in an hour than she had in 32 years. "You can start tomorrow," I said, not turning around. "Early. You sweep floors, haul gear, stay out of my way. You earn it this time." She nodded, quick and quiet. "Okay. No shortcuts, Mia. Not here." "I get it." I didn't trust her, not fully, but it wasn't about forgiveness. It was about me deciding who got a seat at my table. She shuffled out, the bell jingling again, and I let out a breath I didn't know I'd been holding. Sam poked his head from the back, a smirk tugging at his lips. "You're a softy, boss." "Shut it," I said, but I grinned. That night my phone lit up again. Evelyn's name this time, no voicemail dodge. I answered, bracing myself. "Riley," she started, voice thin like she'd been crying or pretending to. "I think we all said things we didn't mean. Can we meet? Just talk, please?" I closed my eyes, the Charleston skyline blinking through my window. Streetlights, neon signs, life moving on. "I've already said what I needed to," I told her, publicly. A pause, then softer. "We've reflected, Tom and I. We want to move forward as a family. Your version of family isn't something I need anymore, Mom." Click. I hung up, the silence settling like a blanket. No anger, no tears, just a clean break. Later that week, a letter came. Tom's handwriting, neat and stiff. No, I'm sorry, just, we hope someday you'll understand what we tried to do. I tucked it in a drawer. It was the last I heard from them, and honestly, that was enough. The real win came a few days later. An email from the Atlanta Photo Expo. Congratulations, Riley Harper. Low Country Shadows is our spring cover. My first cover. National, legit, mine. Sam whooped when I told him, dragging me to the rooftop with 2 beers and a told-you-so grin. "You're blowing up, boss," he said, clinking his bottle against mine. "They can't ignore you now." "They never had to," I replied, the wind tugging at my sleeves. "I just stopped waiting for 'em to care." The studio opening for Reborn in Focus came the next Friday. The place was packed. Collectors in blazers, friends in jeans, folks I'd chosen to fill my frame. Nora showed up with a tray of sparkling water and lemon cookies, her smile warm as she raised a glass. "To the family we make," she said. The room echoed it, glasses clinking, voices overlapping. I stood in the center, not because I begged for it, but because they pulled me there. Out of the corner of my eye, I caught Mia sweeping in the back, head down, broom scraping the floor. She didn't look up, didn't expect applause. For once, she was the shadow. After the last guest left, I checked my phone. One voicemail. Evelyn again. "Riley, it's your mother. I know you don't owe us anything, but I hope someday you'll forgive me. Not for me, for you." I didn't delete it, didn't call back. Some things aren't meant to be fixed, just let go. I walked to my workspace in the back, the walls still smelling of fresh paint, my favorite chair creaking as I sat. Across from me hung a new print, black and white, my face sharp and unapologetic, ink scrawled beneath. Seen on my terms. No more asking, no more waiting. I'd built the damn table. The rooftop was my last stop that night. Charleston stretched out below, soft shadows, streetlights flickering like fireflies, the Ashley River glinting in the distance. I pulled an old photo from my pocket. Me and Mia, kids at Tybee. Her in ballet tights, front and center, me blurry in the back, cropped at the shoulder. I traced the edge with my thumb. They'd never seen me clearly, but I did now. Sam's voice drifted up from the stairs. "Hey, Riley, this frame's crooked. Looks honest, though." I laughed, folding the photo away. "Leave it that way." Here's what I've learned, y'all. After years of shrinking at the edge of their story, you don't need their permission to matter. You don't have to keep bleeding just because they call it family. And you sure as hell don't need a seat at a table where your name's missing. Build your own. I did. Not out of spite, but out of truth. Out of the quiet love we give ourselves when no one else will. That's my ending. Not a fairy tale, but freedom. Hey, y'all, that's Riley's story. Subscribe if it moved you. Drop a 3 in the comments if you're building your own table, or tell me where you're at. Charleston's still humming, and I'm so glad you stuck with me through this ride. Thanks for being here. Take care of your story.